Hey everyone, my name is Matt, and today we'll be talking about J.Crew. J.Crew is a brand that's iconic for turning striped rugby shirts, Oxford button-downs, chinos, and cozy knits into a staple, quintessential American lifestyle. But the thing is, J.Crew started back in the 40s, so before you get surprised, let's go ahead and dive deep into the whole entire history of J.Crew and see how it became the powerhouse that it is today. So the story actually starts in 1947 with Mitchell Senator and Saul Charles founding Popular Merchandise Incorporated, which was known for in-home demonstrations under the Popular Club Plan name. This goes on for a couple decades, and in the early 1980s, the next generation, Arthur Senator and Emily Senator, would push Popular Club Plan into a new direction. Instead of the traditional direct-to-consumer method, the company actually started releasing a catalog under the J.Crew name. Not the first of its kind, but the first for this company, leading into the classic American lifestyle at a more accessible price point. So this is things of road trips, nice family vacations, so on and so forth. As you can probably imagine, the catalog wasn't just a sales channel. It was more so an opportunity to give you a peek into what that idealized American lifestyle looks like. By 1988, the company had launched J.Crew Factory, and in 1989, the company created its first in-person store in New York Seaport District. So now the catalog not only had space within consumers' imagination, but it had a physical home in one of the most iconic locations in New York City. At this point, it's been roughly 36 years since J.Crew's inception, under different names and such. However, something that's been consistent is the fact that across all of its catalog, J.Crew's become synonymous with American smart casual. People trust J.Crew to deliver consistently good quality items that lead into high quality wardrobe for people. So at this point, J.Crew is essentially killing it, but one of the main concerns or main considerations at this point though is that while the product is great, there's been challenges with retail expansion and increasing mail orders at this point. With J.Crew's brand and recognition growing, TPG Capital actually bought a major stake within the company in 1997 with hopes of improving retail expansion. Then in 2003, we have people such as Miller Drexler joining J.Crew. Miller is famously known for his time at Gap, and he joined as chairman and CEO. He even invested $10 million of his own money, alongside TPG contributing another $10 million. Fast forward a few years into 2006, and J.Crew completes his IPO. So this is a huge turning point for the brand, and signals that there's confidence that J.Crew is still an up-and-coming, high-potential brand. So given that, we see a few new introductions and personnel changes as well to help launch J.Crew to this new high growth potential or future state. So given that, let's talk about it. And before we even dive into these new people, something we want to highlight as well is the fact that as J.Crew is continuing to grow and expand, we also have notable individuals wearing J.Crew at different venues and stuff like that. So most notably, we have Michelle Obama wearing J.Crew in 2008 during The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. So huge turning point for J.Crew in the sense of not only is it a quintessential American staple, but it can also perform and be showcased in some of these high profile events as well. So now to introduce the star of the show, Jenna Lyons. So she initially joined J.Crew in the 1990s as an assistant designer in menswear, and over the course of a couple decades, she eventually became the creative director in 2008, and by 2010, she became president of J.Crew. So given this impressive track record, let's talk about what did she actually do and what her key contributions were. So like I said earlier, J.Crew is moving in a new direction and continuing to grow its brand at this point in the 2000s. First, let's talk about some of the unique styles that she helped popularize. So first is the surplus style parkas as a staple, seeing unique silhouettes, thicker, bulkier things, and not just relying on those slim, traditional silhouettes that we're accustomed to nowadays. And then on top of that, she's known for mixing sequins with tailoring and making bold costume jewelry feel like wardrobe casual basics. So in addition to that, there's a couple things as well that Jenna Lyons is known for. So the first is how J.Crew expands its market positioning. So first, let's talk about this. In 2008, J.Crew introduced a new higher end upscale line called the J.Crew Collection. And in this collection, this is more so focused on providing higher quality materials, more premium cuts, more like tailored silhouettes. And you could probably imagine a few things from here. Given that in 2008, the recession is not only the US economy, but the global economy pretty hard. So given that, this was a bit of a questionable move. However, the intent, the designs, the work behind this is no laughing matter. It's quite impressive what they're able to accomplish with this J.Crew line. And in addition to that, J.Crew opens up its first ever men's only store in Tribeca. So this store used to actually be a liquor store, but it became converted, and this kind of signaled to the rest of the world, the rest of like most consumers, that hey, J.Crew is serious about its menswear, and this became a focal point for the company in the 2000s. All right, so now to start talking about J.Crew in the 2010s. The 2010s is marked with a lot of changes and a lot of downhill trajectory for the J.Crew brand, and this comes from a variety of things. But it's quite a different experience compared to how the 2000s was, and even earlier on in J.Crew's lifestyle or lifetime. So given that, let's talk about what's actually happening here, why there's this market downturn, and kind of go from there. So in the 2010s, a few things happened. First, people were complaining about the prices for some of J.Crew's goods, pants, chinos, so on and so forth, due to the 2008 financial crash, impacting a lot of people's livelihoods, income. So this directly impacted J.Crew in the sense of what they were selling was just not lining up with people's expectations for this current time in the market in the 2010s. On top of that as well, something that's important that I can sit down and talk about a little bit is debt. With ambitious growth goals for J.Crew, there was a lot of debt that was undertaken to help expand presence across the United States. This was something that's been lingering on J.Crew's books, and it needed to be resolved pretty quickly. In 2011, J.Crew was actually bought out by private equity, and TPG finalized a $3 billion leverage buyout of J.Crew. So what does that actually mean for J.Crew as a company? There's a variety of things, and this is how it impacts the product, things that they sold. That means lower quality materials, less care, less attention paid out to the specific products that they are selling, and cutting corners whenever they can to help bring the company back to profitability. As you can probably imagine, people weren't happy with this change of direction, and there was less opportunities for people like Jenna Leons to experiment, to do the things that they excelled at, and bring that creative, fresh, new perspective into these upcoming collections and such. In 2017, there's a variety of different leadership changes. Jenna Leons leaves or steps down, and in addition to that, Drexler also steps down from CEO that same year. So two key pivotal people within J.Crew's transformation left. In addition to that, given this lack of identity, lack of direction from a leadership level, J.Crew struggles. Without these two individuals helping lead reign the company, it's very hard for J.Crew to identify who they are, because there weren't that many people that were able to walk into those roles and kind of do the things that the previous leadership excelled at. So in 2020, J.Crew filed for bankruptcy and announced a restructuring plan involving billions of dollars in assets and debt. By late 2020, J.Crew was able to kind of restructure itself, and with that came a few different changes from a leadership perspective as well. So in November, Libby Waddle, former Madewell CEO, becomes the new appointed CEO for J.Crew. And in this goal to re-energize and bring J.Crew back to its kind of former glory, there was a lot of ambition put out there to help hire and attract a lot of new talent. So in 2022, J.Crew hired Brendan Babenzien, formerly known for his work with Supreme and his own label, to help lead menswear again. And at this point, there was a focus on upcycling and upgrading the staples that J.Crew is famously known for, such as their shirts, chinos, pants, and a variety of other things, and making them more modern. So thinking about looser silhouettes, slightly more proportionate cuts. So given it's a few years out from 2022, we've seen some new releases and collections, and it's really interesting to see what J.Crew has done. And it'll only be a matter of time until we see how people interact with and understand J.Crew's new identity. So now that we've made it to this point in the video, let's talk about things that are tangible and actionable at this point. So if you're looking to shop at J.Crew, what are some smart plays? What are some things that I could recommend for you upgrading your wardrobe and improving your outfits? So when we think of J.Crew, like I've said earlier, they're iconic for their shirts, their chinos, their pants. And still to this day, that's what they're known for and they excel at. So let's start with shirts. When you think about them, Oxfords and poplin button-downs are still consistently reliable, and they work with a variety of different outfits, whether it's from like a casual office setting or something more formal, or something more to the lines of maybe a nice little date outfit, or even just a nice casual walking around outdoors type of outfit. You cannot go wrong with either an Oxford button-down or a poplin button down as well, depending on what you want to do with that. And then, here's the start of the show when it comes to clothing. J.Crew's chinos are still one of the best in deals within the industry. Still solid construction, and the fabric and the material is still consistently reliable, even after all these decades. Design leadership keeps naming shirts and chinos as core to the brand, so as you can expect, these chinos have still retained the quality, the material, and care that make them iconic. And last but not least, suiting. So in 2008, J.Crew released the Ludlow suit, and it was iconic for the fact that it was a more modern cut, a little sleeker, slimmer than the more traditional boxy suits and ties that you've seen probably in movies and such. So given that, the Ludlow is still cream of the crop when it comes to the materials and cares that J.Crew uses to create them. And something that we've seen also relatively recently is the Kenmare suit. So this is a newer cut in the sense that it's more relaxed than the 2000s skinny, tight, form-fitting outfits and silhouettes, but still high quality materials and still reliable when it comes to presenting yourself in a more upscale way. And one last thing in terms of how J.Crew is trying to bridge the past with the present is that in 2024, J.Crew actually started to bring back the print catalog. So that same catalog that people were enamored with back in J.Crew's early days. And so it's still focusing on that lifestyle, that experience, as opposed to individual products. And it's exciting because I think this is a signal that J.Crew's leadership understands how J.Crew operated throughout its history and why people initially fell in love with the brand. The fact that leadership is taking this into account and bringing back some of these iconic staples, both from the clothing perspective and from the cataloging perspective, is very important and a very positive signal for how people will interact with the brand moving forward. So time will only tell how J.Crew will grow and persist, but I think at this point in time it's in a very exciting position and becoming more relevant compared to how it was in prior decades. So given that, hopefully you've really enjoyed the content that I've shared today, and please like and subscribe if you'd like to see more. Feel free to suggest other brands that you'd like me to break down as well. There's a countless amount of brands, and I'd love to hear your guidance and thoughts in regards to what could be an exciting story to tell and what we can do better moving forward. So thank you again for your time today, and this is Ahmed checking out.